Hi, I'm Steve Thompson, president of Emery Thompson Machine, and this is Christi Brown, Emery Thompson sales manager, and we have a special video for you today. We have Darian Rottman from Lochhead Vanilla visiting us. Darian, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Lochhead Vanilla, let me just show it to you, is the official vanilla of Emery Thompson Machine and all our Make It Fresh videos. Even Jeff, who you've seen on all the other videos, has given up making his Mexican moonshine vanilla in favor of a real highest quality vanilla. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is vanilla. And we're going to make some vanilla ice cream because there's got to be a reason to get everybody to come here, and that's eating ice cream.
That's right.
So Darian, welcome. We're glad you're here. I'm going to start by sanitizing the machine, but Christi, if you want to start off with one of the questions on the that we came up with.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll start sanitizing.
Okay.
So we come up with some questions, and we're kind of curious, as well as us, as for our audiences.
Okay.
And the first one that we have is it true that vanillas come from an orchid?
Vanillas do come from an orchid. Vanilla beans are, I always tell people, if you're ever on Jeopardy, one thing people don't realize about vanilla beans is they actually are the fruit of an orchid. There are like 35,000 orchid varieties, and only one of them produces an edible fruit, and that is the vanilla planifolia. So if you're ever on Jeopardy and they say which orchid, the answer is what is vanilla planifolia. And so there are, even though they come from an orchid, there are definitely different varieties. So you have, the Madagascan bean, which is the vanilla planifolia. It's going to have one flavor profile. An Indonesian bean is going to have a completely different flavor profile. And then you get into like the Tahitian vanillas. They're even more out there. They have like more fruity floral notes. So depending on where beans come from, just like grapes with wine, where the vanilla beans come from determines the flavor profile that's going to come through in your vanilla product. And so as you're testing vanillas, we'll talk about what, this product is Steve's favorite. We'll talk about what that is versus pures and how the different flavor profiles come through.
Well, I'm excited to hear that, and it definitely is Steve's favorite because he hides it in the closet. Doesn't let it be out in sight at all.
Well, otherwise everybody wants to take it home.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. So.
Very true.
I've just sanitized the machine. That means I've killed off any bacteria in the machine. And so it's going to be ready to go. And we don't have to sanitize between batches. If we make one batch after another for the next 8 hours without even stopping, and don't open the machine or touch any of the internal parts, we don't have to sanitize again. One little trick, the last thing I did was take the water out of the machine, and now the next thing that we'll be doing is pouring the dairy blend into the machine. And it's going to go all over the floor and make a miserable mess, and you're going to curse Emery Thompson because the machine leaks terribly. The problem was you left the gate open. So close the gate. It's very simple. Anytime you go by the machine, just tap it, make sure that it's closed. So this is all sanitized, and we can go for hours. I'm going to keep the sanitary water off to the side here. I'm going to put my spatulas in it. Anything that's going to come in contact with the ice cream, maybe my hands, I'll just rub a little bit of the sanitizer on there, and that will keep us in a good sterile position. So we want to get going right away. You had another follow-up, I think, on there.
Are you going to do this?
I'll do this.
Okay.
That way, if I spill it, it's my fault.
Are there any specific countries that grow vanilla?
Well, so Madagascar is basically kind of the 300-pound gorilla in the vanilla industry, okay? And so about 80% of the world's supply of vanilla beans comes from Madagascar. What we've been dealing with recently in the price increases and prices going really high, most of that is driven by Madagascar, and then every place else kind of falls in line. So we at Lochhead source Madagascan beans as the primary, but we do source the Indonesian beans, the Tahitian beans I mentioned, even Mexican beans. One thing people don't realize is vanilla was originally indigenous to Mexico.
Oh, really?
And it has it's ironic because it had its start in Mexico, but now the Mexican bean crop is micro small compared to many of the others that are out there. It was in the Mexican beans originally were that's what vanilla was synonymous with. Now, as Mexico's economy has grown, different, fruits and things like that. Even the oil industry, things like that coming to Mexico helped grow their economy. Back in the 70s, it began to change, and now Madagascar is the driver for vanilla beans for the world.
Is it because of their climate?
Yeah, so vanilla beans typically grow, think about kind of in the same, what we would think of as like a coffee belt or the cacao belt. Vanilla beans grow in those same regions. So, it's going to be moist, moist environments that are rainforesty type environments is where vanilla beans grow. And, it's an orchid. They'll actually grow up, it's a vine that will literally run. And so one of the things you have to do with vanilla beans, you have to train the vines. Okay, we'll talk about, I guess maybe it's a good time to say it, but every vanilla orchid is actually hand pollinated.
Oh, wow.
Most people don't realize that. Back when it all began in Mexico, there was a bee in Mexico called the Melipony bee that would actually pollinate the orchid, and it was made, God made it just the way he did. On its head, it almost has like a rhinoceros tusk where it can lift a cap to actually access the pollen to be able to do the pollination. You don't have Melipony bees all over the world. And so in Madagascar, for instance, or in Tahiti or wherever, when they are pollinating the orchids, they actually have to do it by hand. So farmers have to go out each day. The orchids bloom for about a half a day. And if you don't pollinate that orchid, then it's going to dry up, go away, and you've missed your opportunity. So farmers are going out checking their crops. One of the other things you have to do is you have to train the vines, because if the vine runs up a tree and you can't get to it, you can't pollinate it. So you'll see pictures sometimes from Madagascar and other places. George Lochhead, the owner of our company, he and John own Lochhead together. George does go to Madagascar, and you'll see pictures maybe on our website of George, and he'll be looking at what looks more like a bush than a orchid. But what they have done is they have trained the vines, over and over again on the same bush, or sometimes you'll see it on trees, and they'll run them down another tree source. And really all they're doing is keeping those buds in a place where they can hand pollinate when they actually do bloom. So it is, we say, and people maybe argue this, but it is for sure one of the most labor intensive crops in the world.
I can imagine.
And it's, and it's grown all over the world. There's, with the advent of what we've been dealing with prices recently, you have other regions like Uganda and that are really trying to gain market share because prices have been high and there's demand. We'll talk probably, I think you have another question about prices. Why is vanilla so expensive?
That's right. Yeah.
So do you want me to go into that now?
You just touched on some of it. It's the incredible labor intensive.
It is labor intensive. What vanilla prices, I've been with Lochhead for 16 years, and over the course of my 16 years, vanilla prices had been pretty stable. They were making this video in 2021. The last 4 to 5 years, starting with about 16, prices started going upward, and that was kind of a combination of, we had a couple years in a row where you had not great growing years. Crop one year I think the crop was off by like 30%, and then the next year, I think the second year, the crop was off by like 50%, and it was like, so you started having upward pressure in pricing. And then in the spring of 2017, there was a cyclone that hit Madagascar. And, it hit the growing region, it damaged the crop, it damaged crops, that were even in the, that had already been cured out. It led to basically, extreme tightness in the supply of beans. And then you end up with speculators and all kinds of other factors. Anytime anything gets tight, whether it's oil or whatever the commodity type product is, people come in and try to make money off of it. And so in Madagascar, prices, literally skyrocketed overnight. And we've been dealing with it. The vanilla that used to be $35 to $40 a gallon was well over $400 a gallon for the same pure vanilla extract.
Wow.
And so, that's a product of beans being expensive, and that's what happened with beans. There was times where it was even difficult to get them. It was that bad, and so that's what drives vanilla pricing. It is the labor intensive. It is all that goes into making and growing vanilla, but then it is grown in Madagascar and other regions of the world, and there are climactic situations, whether it's cyclones, etc., that drive what the market's going to do.
We're in Florida, so we're very conscious of what goes on in the orange industry.
Yeah.
And years ago, there were little oranges about that big that were coming out of Spain and Portugal called clementines. And easy to peel, and they were absolutely delicious. And they were only available from December until about late February, and then gone. And it was a limited supply. Back then, 20 years ago, a bag of them was about $9, which was outrageous. That'd probably be 18 today. And they were wonderful. It was actually hurting the orange market in Florida and California.
Okay.
So Sunkist came along and found a way to copy the clementine. Maybe they moved some of the trees or the vines, and it took years for the crop to grow. But now you go into the supermarket and you see cuties. Which is their trade name for it, and they're absolutely fantastic. It's a clementine. Is there any way that the vanilla industry could also move vanilla orchid vines to other parts of the world that have a similar climate?
So vanilla, that is being done. That's a great question. First of all, we have cuties in the car right now, Steve, just for the record. So we're traveling and we have some with us. That has actually been done. I mean, some of that with being in Mexico and then going to Madagascar. Vanilla is going to be grown in places where the economy of scale can allow for labor and that's at a certain level. But vanilla is grown. It has been grown. When it moved to Madagascar, there are India is producing some beans. Even some beans coming out of China. I mentioned Uganda. We've even actually done there's a lady that's in out of Alabama that's actually, we do mission, my family with our church, we've done mission work in Haiti, and they're actually even trying to take a crop like that to Haiti, for instance.
Wow, that would be great.
It's great because, that's one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And it's a place that, and they actually have had some, they're not commercial scale type products or processes yet, but they are using them in some products in there. And the cool thing is they sell them out of Haiti into the U.S. But even in that, like the village where we work in Haiti, we actually tried to grow some there, and it's on the wrong side of the mountains. You know what I mean? And so it's more arid. And even though they've grown, they don't do like they do when you get them basically on the wet side of the mountains. They just explode there. So, but yeah, you can grow if the climate. The hard part about establishing vanilla, is because it is so labor intensive. From the time we've actually planted vines in Haiti. From the time you plant that vine, it's 3 to 4 years before it starts bearing orchids and then producing the edible fruit.
It's like a pineapple. Pineapple's the same thing.
It is, okay.
Long wait time.
Yeah, so that's a challenge.
I'm going to get this going. How much vanilla? We put in
5 quarts.
5 quarts of mix.
Okay.
How much vanilla would you recommend?
All right, so I'm going to mention this on camera, because Steve and I were just talking about it off camera. Steve recommends a usage rate that is higher than what we recommend sometimes, and so I think in the I don't know what the right word is, but in a spirit of showing everyone in our country that you can disagree and still be friends, I think Steve and I can do that right here, right now. So we typically, with this particular vanilla, would recommend somewhere between 1 ounce of vanilla to 1.5 ounces of vanilla per 1 gallon of your, what'd you call it? You didn't call it, what'd you call it?
I called it mix.
You said you used another term.
Blend.
Dairy blend. There you go. Yeah. So that's where we would say 1 ounce to 1.25 ounces, 1.5 ounces per gallon.
Oh, wow.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve sometimes recommends higher than that, and one of the things that I think is important is, I was talking to a customer probably a month ago, and he was doing a process, and he was testing vanillas, and he was testing our vanilla versus versus someone else's, and he came back to me and he was like, "Yours didn't win," and I was like, "Are you? What? Tell me." He's like, "It just didn't taste as good." And as we kept talking, I finally got he said, well, I used your mix, I used this, or your vanilla in this mix, and I used someone else's vanilla, the competitors, in this mix. And I'm like, well, you can't do that and he goes, yeah, because we don't like this mix. I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's why.
When you're testing and working with vanillas, the mix that you're using is important. And then, in that mix, varying usage rates are going to, taste differently, and it's going to, ultimately for you, it's that taste and see to maximize the product, maximize the flavor. You said something before we started that I think is a good way to segue into that. But how did you say that? With someone comes in and they try your vanilla?
I want all my flavors to be as strong as can be. I want you to know what it is. I tell customers that the only way you can fail in this business is if someone tastes your product and they say, "That's great, what is it?"
Yeah.
If they can't tell that it's raspberry ice cream as opposed to strawberry, then you didn't use enough flavor. People eat flavor. We talk in previous videos about air content and fat content, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's flavor. And the number one selling ice cream is and always will be vanilla. When people will come in and they'll stare at all your different flavors and they get overwhelmed, they say, "Give me vanilla." Because everyone loves it. It's the most versatile. You can put butterscotch sauce on top of it. You can put maple syrup. You can put a Drambuie liqueur or Grand Marnier. There's all things. You can just throw some chips on it. There's so much you can do with vanilla. But unlike the commercial ice creams that you get in the supermarket, which are vanilla in name only, since you're dealing with an expensive product, they're not inclined to buy the best, and they're not inclined to use much of it anyway.
That's right.
I am not trying to make cut corners on ice cream. I'm trying to make the best that can possibly be made, and the crowd will come and they'll buy it.
That's right.
So you said 1.5 ounces to this batch.
Yeah.
I'm going to do less than what Jeff does. Tie-Dye Jeff does 1 ounce per quart, but then he's using this bootleg moonshine coming from foreign countries. So I'm going to split the difference and put it up to 3 ounces. So if you'll put in at the third cup level. The ice cream mix, it's a terrible term. We call it mix in the industry. We have industry terms like bits and bauds and bytes and computers. We have the same thing in the dairy industry, and probably when you talk about vanillas too.
Yep.
This is nothing more than something that came out of the cow at 4:30 yesterday afternoon, and it was separated. It came out as milk out of the cow. I've never done that, never seen one, but I've seen pictures of a cow. And it is then separated into milk, cream, and low-fat milk and skim milk. Well, this is a blend of milk, cream, pure cane sugar, and skim milk powder. So it's all the best ingredients on earth, and it's put in these 2.5-gallon bags and delivered to you overnight to your store. So it's as fresh as can be. We make better ice cream and gelato in the United States than anywhere else in the world because our products came out of the cow yesterday. If you're using a gelato powder from Italy, they don't have any. They have beef cattle, but they don't have dairy cattle. So their cows were milked on the Pampas in Argentina. It was put through a series of screen doors called a spray dryer, where they just blow it through at high speed and it turns it into a powder. Shipped to Bologna, Italy, shipped to the Port of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and then shipped to you in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Or you could have gone down the street to the farmer and say, "Send me over some bags of fresh, moose stuff." Want to start it up on super premium and maybe Christi explain what that is?
All right. So you wanted super premium?
Please.
Okay.
Which means I'm going to put a little less air in it than homemade.
Which is about what Ben & Jerry's is if you went to go get a pint of Ben & Jerry's. All right, we are started.
That's running.
And so basically you add the mix and then add the vanilla separately, and it...
Some people add it to their container and then pour it all in. Some can do it just like I did. I prefer to add things straight to the machine, whether it's cookies or anything flavoring, syrups, extracts. It's the beauty of the machine. You can dump anything in there. And Steve was talking about the mix, and he taught me a trick, a little secret. He said, we've had people that's forgotten to put in the vanilla, and they've made ice cream with it. And if you forget to add the vanilla, you can just call it sweet cream ice cream. It works just as well.
We'll chalk sign out in front of the store, special today, sweet cream ice cream. And then just sell it all off.
It's all marketing, right?
It is all marketing. In some stores, it becomes the most popular. Now, later on, I don't know if it'll show up on this video, but we're going to make some Oreo cookie ice cream. Now, I like to put vanilla in everything.
Yep.
I like, so the predominant flavor in the Oreo cookie is the Oreo cookies. But the vanilla just helps enhance it. So, except for maybe something like raspberry or strawberry, where you're using a fruit as the predominant flavor, I like to use vanilla in absolutely everything.
So we typically, when someone is using vanilla in another flavor, we typically recommend whatever your usage rate is on your vanilla ice cream to cut that in half. Is that what you recommend as well?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would. No?
No.
You make more ice cream than I do.
You make it the same rate, or do you?
Well, whenever I do anything that doesn't, I don't measure it. I eyeball it.
Okay.
You know, I splash it in there.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've always told the rule of thumb, you know, the ounces per quart of mix for the vanilla extract.
Well,
but unless it's like what he said, if it's a strawberry or raspberry or something very, you know, off the wall, then I would kind of hold back on that.
I'll tell you, sometimes what I mentioned, strawberry, raspberry, some of those other ones, people will ask us, and I mentioned earlier the different vanilla profiles. The Tahitian profile is dramatically different. I'll tell you, it's interesting. I do classes where I'll teach on vanilla, just the whole thing. We do one at Clemson every year as a lab, actually, at the college, and so my whole family, we're all Clemson fans. But one of the things that has happened over the last about 12 years is you see flavor profiles have changed in what students prefer. So now statistically it's minor, you know, from a statistical analysis, but when I first started, Tahitian vanilla, for instance, was the least preferred, and it was by far the most polarizing. Now, Tahitian vanilla actually it's right, they're almost dead even across the board. And I think some of that is that Tahitian has like a fruity floral note that will come through real strong. So if someone's making a strawberry or a raspberry or something like that, and you want to add vanilla, a Tahitian vanilla is a great vanilla as a background to your fruit flavors, because it just complements everything that's going on with the fruit flavors already. And so
I just thought vanilla extract was vanilla extract.
It does make a difference. Now, that's that would be someone that's, you know, and we sell everything we sell in a 4-gallon case, you know, but we can, you know, sometimes people will be like, I'm buying 4 gallons from you, I just want to buy 1 gallon Tahitian for just these certain, you know, a key lime flavor, or, you know, raspberry, strawberry, some of these kind of more specialized, and they do that. So,
sounds good.
So you asked me earlier, or we were talking also, you asked, what is 103A?
Right, about this product that I like.
Yes. So when you make vanillas, we've mentioned the term, or I mentioned the term, you know, pure vanilla extract. For making vanillas, there's a standard of identity for what vanillas have to be and the language is important, pure vanilla extract. A pure vanilla extract has to be at least 13.35 ounces of beans per 1 gallon of liquid. And then the liquid has to be at least 35% alcohol. The alcohol could be higher, but it cannot be below 35%. So that's what, you know, so if you're making a Madagascar bourbon single strength pure vanilla extract, it's got 13.35 ounces of beans in it, and then it's got, you know, it's extracted into 1 gallon of liquid. Sometimes you'll see a twofold or a double strength vanilla.
Yeah.
All that is it's got 26.7 ounces of beans, twice as many beans, extracted into the same gallon of liquid. And so that's, you know, when you see some of these things, so pure vanilla extract, there's really not any wiggle room. There are some allowable additives. We don't, you know, if you look at our pure vanilla extract, it's vanilla bean extractives in water and alcohol. There's no sugar, nothing else. You don't need it. So our vanillas are super clean labeled. Now, Steve loves this product, and we make, you know, Lochhead, we make over 300 different vanillas. So we do make the pure vanilla extracts. We do make what this is more of a natural flavor. We do also make like N&A's, natural and artificial vanilla flavors, like the Van Gold. I think you probably are familiar with that. It's one of the, you know, phenomenal vanilla, just like this, except for it's natural and artificial. We even do straight artificial vanillas. So a product like this Flavor 103A, that product as a natural flavor, it does contain pure vanilla extract, and that's what makes it so good. But in the flavoring industry, there are basically natural flavorings that give the effect of concentrating that pure vanilla profile. I'll keep talking because but yeah, so that's what you have. You have pure vanilla extract in there as the foundation. I always describe it like this. It's like building a house. If the foundation of your house is messed up, no matter how good everything looks, it's going to show. And so building a great natural flavor, natural vanilla like that, starting with a good foundation, a really high-end pure vanilla extract, and then you build from there. And there in the flavor industry, there's lots of different things you can do. But that's what makes that flavor-wise taste so good.
I like it because I really can't taste the difference between the very expensive pure vanilla and the all-natural vanilla.
Yeah.
And the cost difference is dramatic. So it means that I can use more of it and I can put it into every flavor without having to worry about I'm going through my vanilla too quickly.
That's right.
It's very affordable and so I can use a lot.
Yeah. Right now, when things got at their peak, it was almost a fourth of the price. It's not quite that now because it's other ingredients cost different things, but it's a dramatically less expensive alternative to pure vanilla extract, and and like you said, it gets great flavor. The only the questions that come about now, I won't get into the weeds of labeling too much, but the biggest concern of which vanilla you're going to use oftentimes comes down to how you want to label your product. And do you want to label it vanilla ice cream or vanilla flavored ice cream? And if you're in a scoop shop, it's a little different scenario than if you're on a store shelf. And so we don't give labeling advice, but that a lot of times is ultimately what determines which vanilla a customer of ours will go with, is how they want, are they making pints and sticking them on a store shelf? Then they're limited. They're a little more limited if they want to have, they're limited if they want to have vanilla ice cream on the label.
For me, when I'm thinking of ingredients and labeling and everything else involved in it, I steal a line from the great Rush Limbaugh, made from the best stuff on earth.
There you go.
And that's all that's going in my ice cream.
There you go.
Mary, who runs Leopold's Ice Cream up in Savannah, said the only things that she wants in her ice cream are milk, cream, sugar, skim milk powder, and the flavoring.
Yep.
And that's it. That's what makes a great ice cream.
That's right.
And it makes it a memorable ice cream, the reason people come back all the time.
Absolutely.
Now, Christi shut off the refrigeration switch so it wouldn't get any colder, and she's pulling it out into these containers. You can see how nice and stiff and dry that is. We like these containers as opposed to, you can use the big ones, or this is traditional in an ice cream parlor.
Yep.
But these are fun, and you're not there yet, but when you get to be my age, these are great because you get these doctors who make an appointment for 3 o'clock and all 20 patients are for 3 o'clock and they tell you to bring War and Peace. I walk in with ice cream and spoons, and they say, "Oh, good, I'll take that to the doctor." No, I'll give it to him. Oh, and look, it's melting.
You go right to the front of the line.
Yeah, right to the front of the line. I haven't tried it yet at motor vehicles, but I think it would work.
Yeah, it might work there too. Yeah,
I tried it on a judge. It did work. So there's different levels, but there's side benefits to make.
You take the Oreo ice cream for the judge, right? You try to bump it up a notch.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah,
maybe it was a liqueur ice cream. So is that everything that's in there, Christi?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to go right ahead and go to a next batch.
Yep.
So I can start this up.
You guys want a cup?
And I'm going to...
you got to eat some. Heck yeah.
We may serve it to them off camera.
Okay.
I don't know if you want everybody on camera.
Oh, no. Yeah, they can serve off camera. That's fine.
So I'm going to pour this in. This is my other... part of 2.5 gallons. This is, by the way, a 12-quart machine. Normally I run a 24, but this is my test machine. I've had it for years and just keep making changes and innovations, and we put them in here.
Okay.
Where I can work with. Christi, on the other hand, has a machine at home. Wow. I don't get a machine at home.
Wow.
But she's got one. So she and her family, her husband and daughter, are always making up different flavors.
So what do you have at home, Christi?
The CB100.
Okay.
I'm still trying to talk him into letting me have the 200. That one over there.
Greedy. Okay, I'm going to turn on the refrigeration. There's no reason to wait. If you watch my videos, Jeff will turn on the what we call the dasher or beater and let it spin, and he says he's mixing things. Well, I get going right away. I'm here to get my job done so I can go sit down. And so I know that for an 8-minute batch, for about the first 4 minutes, it's still going to be liquid. It's like watching water boil. It does nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, it snaps. And there actually is a physics reason why it does that. I don't recall. But nothing's going to happen for the first few minutes, so I've got time to just take these cookies. I like doing this at trade shows. I'm giving away all my secrets. I do it at trade shows because the competition cannot do this. They have to take these cookies and pulverize them. Yep. And I'm sitting here just laughing away, putting in cookies. Maybe I'll take a couple of bananas and peel them and just throw the whole banana in. It's great fun. It's great marketing. These are going to get ground up by the machine, and I'm going to have a very intense cookie flavor. If you just add them at the end, all you're making is vanilla. Oh, I need vanilla. You're just making vanilla with cookies in it. This way, for every particle of dairy, there's a particle of cookie. And I'll put in half as much, like you said. See, I'm learning new things here today.
I think one of the things people ask about, and I should mention that Steve alluded to it earlier, but we describe, when you're making vanilla ice cream, vanilla, what vanilla does as a flavor is vanilla works as a flavor enhancer. It is not, when you add vanilla to your white mix, if you're adding chocolate powder or cocoa powder to a white mix, you're making a chocolate ice cream. Or if you add strawberries, you're making strawberry. You're completely changing the flavor of the dairy, dairy mix itself. When you add vanilla to your mix, you're not really changing the mix. Vanilla works as a flavor enhancer. It literally lifts all the flavors that are in the mix itself. And I'll say this a lot of times when I'm doing vanilla training. I'll tell people, if you have a crappy mix, and there are crappy mixes out there. Yeah. If you take a poor quality mix, no matter how good your vanilla is, it just literally enhances what's there. And so, having one of the best mixes in the industry, having great equipment like Steve produces, and having a great vanilla, it's not rocket science.
No, it's simple.
But a lot of times people don't want to go the extra mile or do, and so that vanilla that we sell you, all it's going to do is it's going to enhance everything that's there. There's an old story an industry friend used to share, and I think he said when Colonel Sanders, this may be total legend, I don't know if it's true, but it demonstrates it clearly, but supposedly Colonel Sanders was testing his 11 herbs and spices, his recipe for what Kentucky Fried Chicken became, and he went into he would travel around and go to bars and take his fried chicken in and let people eat it and get that was his consumer groups. And a guy tries it one time and says, "This is the worst chicken I've ever tasted." And then he puts salt on it and takes another bite and said, "This is the best chicken I've ever tasted." And what I use that to, vanilla works on a sweet side as a flavor enhancer, very similar to what salt does on a savory side. And so it's just going to lift the flavors of everything. The dairy, the sugar, the fat, all of those things working together. And it lifts it with the profile of where the beans come from. A Madagascan or an Indonesian or wherever. I'll mention that, just I think it's important. Madagascar beans have a real deep, robust, full-bodied vanilla profile. There are brands out there that say we use only Madagascar beans. I will tell you this, if you're using our Madagascar bourbon pure vanilla extract or others, I do a lot of R&D work. I work out of a home office. I do a lot of R&D work at the house. One of the things experimenting that I've run into is if you use too much Madagascar vanilla, you'll get a perception that you are tasting the alcohol in the vanilla itself. Okay, you ought to try that at your house. Get some of our pure, I'll send you some of our pure.
Okay.
Taste that, because if you over flavor, not as much with the flavor as with an extract, but if you use too much straight Madagascar bourbon and you cross that threshold of great flavor to, you can use too much vanilla, just like you can use too much salt. When you cross that with that Madagascar bourbon profile, I've had people, and I've tried it, where you feel like, or you think you're tasting the alcohol in the vanilla. Yeah. But it is not. It's just that you've crossed the threshold there. The interesting thing is, an Indonesian or even a bourbon Indonesian blend, it does not respond the same way. So Madagascar bourbon is that real depth, robust, full-bodied. The bourbon Indonesian is a blend of those two. So you have the depth on one side of the bourbon, and to me, Indonesian has like a sharper vanilla edge to it. When you're using Madagascar bourbon, if you keep adding more to try to, like you say, I don't feel like I'm getting a vanilla kick coming through. It's like sometimes I would describe it when you keep adding more bourbon, it's almost like the flavor just builds up on itself. It's like it gets deeper, but it doesn't have that sharp kick that some people want to have in their vanilla product. And so a bourbon Indonesian, that Indonesian component gives you that sharper vanilla edge that comes through, and that's why that performs well. Depending on where you go in the country, Madagascar bourbon, especially like New England and those marketplaces, Madagascar bourbon is probably the most preferred. As you come more central and southern, honestly, when we do taste panelings, bourbon Indo is typically preferred over straight Madagascar bourbon. And so it's, depending on where you go around the country, different flavor profiles are preferred one more than the other.
One other thing about the vanilla and the ice cream blend or mix is some places, here in Florida, I run a low-fat mix because it's so hot, and the high fats that we use in Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry would make you feel uncomfortable and sweat in this climate. Sure. In the northern climes, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin and all, we want to run higher fat. Yeah. But some of the lower fat ones will come with, they'll say vanilla 10% ice cream mix. Now, you have to understand that a dairy is in the dairy industry. They deal with the moo cows and blending all this together. They're not vanilla people. So they're going to put in the cheapest vanilla they can find and very little of it, so they can just label it legally vanilla ice cream mix. And that's actually what I'm running today. Okay. But when I get that, I then add my normal amount of vanilla. I just ignore that it's in there because it's so minimal. Yep. And I go ahead and flavor it with vanilla anyway. Do you want to take a look and see what you think?
When you take a dairy mix, when they're making dairy mix, exactly what Steve said is right. When you add that vanilla there, one of the other things it goes through pasteurization. I mean, even we have customers that have done, and we've worked in trials where we'll send a 103A or a vanilla we make called Van Gogh, which is used a lot in frozen custard and products like that. When you use those really high-end vanillas and you run them through pasteurization, it changes the flavor dramatically. And so, if you're making batch ice cream, even if you're buying a vanilla mix, quote unquote, like Steve said, you absolutely should be adding vanilla to it. And that's how you make your own special flavor that's yours. And yours even says that you do it on a label that says it on a low temperature method. Yeah. Right? Yeah, we do all of our vanillas. Lochhead is a little different. We use a cold extraction method for extracting the vanilla. So we literally run it at room temperature in our plant. It takes us about a month to make one batch of vanillas, where you can speed up the process and make a batch of vanillas in a day. It's completely different than how we do it. I wish I'd brought. I'm traveling on personal business on this trip, and so I didn't bring everything. But making vanillas, like making good ice cream, starts with really high quality vanilla beans. You can buy vast, multiple variations of vanilla beans to make, and you can make a Madagascar bourbon or a bourbon Indo or whatever. We start with the best vanilla beans on the market, and then we run them through our cold extraction process, and it ultimately yields what we believe are the best vanillas on the market. Our customers tell us the same thing, and it makes us, it makes an absolutely phenomenal product, whether you're using it in your vanilla or whether you're using it in the Oreo ice cream that Steve is making as well, which looks amazing.
Yeah, we're just shaking. The flavor is already in the ice cream. That's why it's got the rich brown color.
Sure.
That's my what I call fruit flavor. If you were blindfolded and tasted it, it's strong Oreo. But now you also eat with your eyes, and so without the cookies, it doesn't have the identity. What is it? So I'm throwing in the cookies. And for those of you who are interested, Oreo cookies are gluten-free. So
really?
Have all you want.
Wow.
And also so are Fritos. So between gluten-free Fritos, Oreo cookie ice cream, and possibly a beer, I mean, life is good.
You're in good shape.
I need one more container.
Oh boy. Okay, let me do a couple more here.
Well, that's what I always tell everybody too when they go to make ice cream on our machines, is it can set them apart from their competitors. Their competitors are making vanilla ice cream with Oreo in it.
Yeah.
We are truly making Oreo ice cream because you're blending the Oreos into the mix.
I had never seen that before. I'm learning right along with everybody else today.
Oh, it's so much fun. You can add everything right into it. You ready?
You want to just turn sideways so this camera can get you? It's hard to do.
There's not much, but there's coming.
Anticipation.
You want to turn
I'll
it
tell you,
up?
we can just leave it on and just put it down here and we'll let it come out. Oh yeah, good. The infinite overrun controls the air content in the machine, but we can also use it to slow down the machine way down to fill pints.
Okay.
And we can also use it to help extract the last bit of ice cream.
Oh.
But the fact of making ice cream is actually that you're not going to make just one batch of vanilla and one batch of Oreo cookie.
Right.
You're probably going to make 5, 6, 8, 10 batches
Back
of
to
them,
back to
building
back.
an inventory. So
Sure.
what small amount, maybe less than a pint that you leave in the machine, you're going to pick up in subsequent batches.
Got it.
So this is what it looks like. It's that beautiful rich brown color and the pieces in there. This is delicious.
I can't wait to.
I'll
wait till I get off camera, but I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, as soon as we get off camera, we're gonna try this.
We're gonna get to enjoy.
And just so you know, Christi and my recipes have it set. I know you can't see me. Good thing. I will not be playing basketball. Our recipes are set so that the ice cream maker can eat up to 3 Oreo cookies out of this batch, and it will not affect the formula. So,
there you go.
because you can't make this ice cream without eating an Oreo cookie.
Yeah.
You see, I set a couple of pieces aside here. Later on, I'm going. I have one more question.
Yes,
for you.
sir.
I don't think I have the name right, but what is the Van Well project?
Van Well project. That's something that is we are super excited about. George, I mentioned, you know George, obviously. George travels in Madagascar because that's where the most of our beans come from. He goes over there and meets with farmers, sees where the beans are grown, meets with the folks that I didn't mention this, but in addition to the vanillas being grown and hand pollinated, they're hand picked, and even the curing process for vanilla bean takes, in a normal season, about 3 weeks to a month. So vanilla beans are, when they pick them, they're green, okay? And they look like a big, long, almost like just a big, long green bean. They do not smell like vanilla. I mean, if you smell, they smell like just a green bean. But you take these vanilla beans, so the farmers will pick them when they get to length. One of the things that's gone on with prices, when prices were really high, a lot of times you had farmers that were picking beans early, and that affects the quality. You literally want to be buying beans. George wants to, when he goes over and buys beans, he wants beans that are left on the vine to full maturity. And I use the example because it resonates, but if you go out and pick a vine ripened tomato and how juicy and just it's bursting with flavor versus go to a big box grocery store and buy one of these things that's like a baseball that you could throw it against the wall and it doesn't break.
Yeah.
Which one of those two tastes better?
Right.
Everybody knows. That's what you're looking for in vanilla beans. So you want vanilla beans that reach full maturity. And so part of the process of Lochhead and sourcing beans is George does travel to Madagascar. Quite a few years ago, and I can't remember the exact year, I think it was 2011, but that's, don't quote me on that. But yeah, several years ago, George went over there, and one of the things that he saw is, it's an agricultural region, and the farmers are just full of joy and full of life. They live, a great life. But he saw, you see need. When you go to third world countries, you see the need. And so as part of who we are as a company, it was what can we do to go back and have an impact? We pay a good price for the beans, but what can we do in addition to that to have an impact on the ground in Madagascar? And so George sat down with the village elders there in one of the villages where we source beans from. I think actually it's Mandinez where we did the first well. And he said to him, okay, he had some other ideas. George likes to ride bikes. So he was like thinking bikes for Madagascar because he's a mountain biker. And he was thinking, he had some other ideas, as Americans. And he said, what if we were going to invest on the ground in the village of Medina, what would you tell us to do? And they said, our greatest need is clean, fresh drinking water. And I mean, that's something that, on our website, www.lochheadvanilla.com, you can go and there's actually a video for the Van Well project. George and John are on the video, but, it was one of those things where we're accustomed to, you turn on a machine and we have water. It's normal to us. And yet in growing regions and in third world countries like that, there's a river that runs through the region, and that's where everybody buckets their water from if they don't have, fresh water supplies. And so the Van Well project came out of that, and every year we're going into different villages. So part of George's trips to Madagascar is he goes over there and he's working with farmers and investing in crops, meeting with farmers. But then in addition to that, he's also, each time he's going seeing where the wells have been put in, and then also they're scouting for the next villages, the next locations where we're going to be putting in the wells.
Wow.
It's really neat because they're deep drilled wells. You can only do it in certain times of year when it's not the rainy season. If once it starts raining, you can't bring well drilling trucks into those areas. And so you kind of have to scout it out ahead of time, and they'll bring in, they actually, deep water wells. They actually do their hand pump wells that they teach the villagers how to actually maintain them themselves because it's mechanical, so it will break. So when they leave, they know we've got a well here that we can use, and then if it breaks, they also are taught. The village elders are actually the ones that are taught how to maintain it, and it's been, it's been an absolute blessing. I mentioned the mission work my family has been a part of in Haiti. When you see that, and you see folks that you work with that are investing not just in even just commercially buying beans, but when you're going back to these farmers who helped all of us make great ice cream through great machines. Yeah, they grow the best vanilla beans in the world. To invest back into their lives, which is something that's so pure as just clean, fresh drinking water. It's awesome.
That's
and
fantastic.
I'm glad to be part of a company that does it. The vision to do it, and it's go watch the video. It says it more probably better than I've said it here, but it's something we're very proud of as a company, and it's something we're just going to continue on doing. As a company. And if you're buying Lochhead's vanillas, I have people ask sometimes, and so I'll say this. They're like, I want to just give money. If you're buying our vanillas, you're contributing to the Van Well project every single gallon that you buy. And
Great.
So we're
just like us with the K9 for Warriors. So,
that's right.
Emery Thompson is very big on animals and dogs. And so on every email you'll see at the bottom, we support the K9 for Warriors, and we make a donation every time that you purchase a machine.
There you go.
So we definitely are big in charities as well.
Awesome.
So we're both family businesses, and we truly are looking out for our customers. Mm-hmm. And we're also having a lot of fun doing it. This has been great fun today. Tell the camera, how do they get in touch with Lochhead?
Well, so I'll give you our 800 number. It's 800-776-2088. You can call the plant directly. Go on our website. If you want to email me, you can do that. I'm Darian at Lochhead Vanilla. So I'll spell it Darian because it's Darian. The only people that call me Darian are telemarketers and people that don't know me. So my mom spelled it that way, but yeah. So if you want to reach me directly, it's Darian at Lochhead. It's spelled LOCHHEAD vanilla.com. You can call the plant if you. I'm generally really responsive, but. I'll tell you, when we have customers, I told Steve this when I got here today, we'll have customers fill out inquiries via our website, and they're saying, I want 103A. Well, I know exactly who that came from, and we truly, this is no lie, we truly, if we get an inquiry that comes through, we literally try to respond to that thing, sometimes within seconds. If I'm not on the phone call, and someone goes, is willing to take the time, go on our website, fill out an inquiry, and submit it, we literally try to respond as quickly as we possibly can. And so, Steve has been a great industry friend and someone that we dearly love and appreciate. And it's the food world that we live and work in is such a small family business. Even family business. I work with a family-owned company, and there are lots of those but even in those companies, it's kind of all one food family, and we get to make great products together and work together. And I refer folks to Steve just like he refers them to us on a daily basis, and we brag on each other, and we make great ice cream together. So.
And the same thing with us. We build machines that have an average lifespan of 40 years, and sometimes they go through multiple owners. We offer for free lifetime technical support. We don't care how you got the machine. Spoke to a gentleman in Belgium a few minutes ago before you came, and he's looking at a machine that he's going to get from the United States military. And he gave me the model number. I said, "Oh, those are those soft ice cream machines. Don't call me for a soft ice cream machine. It's one of your soft ice cream machines that we used to put on the nuclear subs." So every machine that we sell, no matter where it is, when it was, we will give you free technical support, which will come down to not how to change an O-ring, but where do you get the world's best vanilla. And all you have to do is call us or email us. Contact our sales manager, Christi. It's CHRISTI at emerythompson.com. Thank you very much for watching, and this is great fun. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it.
We'll talk to you soon.